Doctor Who Enlightenment, the 12th story of the 5th Doctor, is written by Barbara Clegg and starring Peter Davidson, Janet Fielding and Mark Strickson. After penning a number of radio and TV scripts such as episodes of Crosswords and Wagoner's Walk, Barbara Clegg came up with an idea of a story and told Eric Sayward, an acquaintance from the BBC drama department. Clegg had been inspired when distant relatives had stayed with her and demanded constant entertainment during their visit, basing the character of the internals upon them, naming the story The Enlighteners. Her submission involved ships racing through space that, with the audition of the Black Guardian subplot, eventually evolved into the story as screened. Eric Sayward and Jonathan Turner liked Clegg's ideas and they wrote the script in September 1981. The first part was delivered by Barbara Clegg in October and the 3 following parts arriving in January 1982. So the story was now scheduled to conclude a 3-story trilogy with the Black Guardian. By 1982, there were problems with the script by Pat Mills. Song of the Space Whale, which had been intended to open the Black Guardian trilogy. Mills' script was eventually dropped and the production team considered moving the Enlighteners forward in the season to replace it, necessitating considerable rewrites. Peter Grimwade was eventually commissioned to write Mordreen Undead to replace the Song of the Space Whale, and the Enlighteners was confirmed as the 5th story of season 20. So the first script of the first episode did not contain any of the material concerning the Guardians and Tolo, a peripheral figure, with the script focusing on the relationship between Mariana and Tegan. With the pre-production underway, Sayward changed the story title to Enlightenment in September 1982 as he felt it was more enigmatic, and he also rewrote portions of the script pertaining to the story arc, particularly the final confrontation scenes at the end of Part 4. Peter Moffat had been originally scheduled as the director of the story, but due to Space Whale script issues, he was asked to helm its replacement due to his experience, and so Fiona Cumming was asked to take over. As soon as the production started, it became apparent that Part 1 and 2 were underrunning, so more dialogue was written to fill in the time. It was originally intended that the character of Jackson would not reappear after the 2nd episode, but during filming, Sayward became concerned that it appeared that he had been executed, and so he and Clegg rewrote Part 3 to include him. Part 3 also looked to be underrunning, so scenes from Part 4 were brought forward and the final scenes with the Guardians were extended to compensate. So this episode begins inside the TARDIS where the lighting goes darker, Tolo is playing chess, and the Doctor makes contact with a White Guardian saying, "Power at risk, there's extreme danger."
I can't hear you!
Power at risk.
Galactic North, 6 degrees 90, death, as that's all the Doctor could pick up, as the Black Guardian interfered, saying he's controlling the Doctor's destiny.
You cannot succeed. I control the game. The Doctor's destiny.
Giving me the shivers. So they inside what looks like a yacht. Tegan had to stay behind, so the Doctor and Tolo looked around and found a room full of sailors. They're happy that the Doctor is there because they mentions they've been living on nothing but hard tags since they come aboard. Meanwhile, Tegan gets a message from White Guardian saying, "Must not win. Tell the Doctor, winner takes all." So she goes outside, and it's a scary scene where she's inside a dark hold, and the way the music played with horror atmospheric and crew members standing around. After a brief running away, Mariana escorts Tegan to the dining room, and so is the Doctor. They've had tea together, but a yacht is shaking, so the crew left. After finding Tolo, they got to the bridge and realised they're not on a yacht, they're in a ship, a spaceship. As it reveals, a few boats sailing in space, which is fascinating.
We're not on a yacht, we're on a ship. A spaceship.
Plus, Tegan found it questionable the wetsuits inside the ship. The Doctor noticed Krytos is wearing on the first finger of his right hand and anachronistic 17th century Spanish signet ring with the large red crystal. As Tegan became ill, she gets escorted to her room for a sleep, but then when she recovered and woke up, just like that, because there was something in her drink, Tolo walked in and Tegan was confused by her bedroom, as it's a mixture of her bedroom from her house and her bedroom inside the TARDIS. and there's a photo of Aunt Vanessa on a picture frame next to her. Because a guy in a wetsuit is forced to go to the deck, Tegan and Tolo need to warn the Doctor, and of course there was something wrong and they don't want the crew to know about the TARDIS, as they're very powerful, but unfortunately they do. So the TARDIS is gone. The Doctor finds out Eternals use ephemerals for their thoughts and ideas. The Eternals have lived for so long they are unable to think for themselves. They need human minds to give them existence and entertainment, which is the reason for the ships use human crews. The purpose of the race, however, is more than entertainment. The prize is enlightenment, the wisdom to know everything. As the Doctor, Tegan and Tolo are in the wetsuits, they go up to the deck, and I thought the effects of space in the deck scene for low budget in its time is really impressive. You get a very scary and intense cliffhanger where Tolo hears the voice of Black Guardian and will no longer serve him. He gets himself overboard in space.
No!
Peter Davidson is brilliant as the Fifth Doctor. Janet Fielding is great as Tegan Jovanka. She gives off great performance. Mark Strickson is also great as Tolo. Like I said, he really nails the acting when Black Guardian manipulates him. Valentine Dial does a phenomenal job as the Black Guardian. He's so threatening and pretty terrifying. It's nice to see Cyril Luckham back as the White Guardian, who first appeared in the Ribos Operation, the Key to Time season. He plays the character very wisely. Keith Barron plays Captain Stryker, who's an Eternal who participated in the race for Enlightenment and in command of Shadow Ship that looks like Edward Wartian sailing yacht. He does a great job. Originally the character was to be played by Peter Sallis, but he dropped out due to filming of The Last of the Summer Wine. Christopher Brown plays Mariana, an Eternal who served as first mate on the Shadow. Under Stryker, he has feelings for Tegan. That guy frightens me. He does a good job of it. Linda Barron played Captain Rack, who's in command of her ship, Buccaneer, and pretty much the main villain. She really does a good job because she's scary in this, especially her laugh. And funny thing is, I've known her from children's TV show I watched as a kid, Come Outside, where she played Auntie Mabel. But of course Linda sang Ballad of the Last Chance Saloon in The Gunfighters and later played Val in Closing Time. Lee John plays Mansell, first mate on the Bianca under Captain Rack. He's brilliant. David Ruel was considered for the role, but he wasn't available, so Lee John covered him in short notice, despite that he never acted before. Tony Counter plays Jackson, a sailor on Shadow Ship. I really like him. Richard Griffiths, Nigel Hawthorne, Donald Houston and Michael Jaston were considered for the role, plus Tony previously played Thatcher in The Crusades and Morgan in Colony in Space. James McClure plays First Officer, a member of Shadow, he's great too. Clive Nella plays Collier, an Edwardian sailor who are taken by Eternals, the crew from the Shadow. During the race, he's great too. There's brilliant casting. The music by Malcolm Clark is fantastic. You get goosebumps for a story like this. It is a great fitting. Fiona Cumming does a great job at directing. The effects for low budget is really impressive, like I said, both original and updated effects. After Tolo leaps off the ship and falls into space, he's rescued by another ship, and the person who's in charge is Captain Rack. Messing with him, Tolo gets locked up in the room. I love the bit where the Doctor puts the new celery on and got rid of the old one during celebration. Well, it looks like a party. Tolo tried to escape, but he gets sealed inside the grid room and the vacuum shield is turned off. So there's a tense scene where Tolo is losing air. He calls for Black Guardian to help him, but he refuses and lets him die. But luckily the Doctor came to rescue, so Tegan and Captain Rack walked into Wheelhouse. Rack freezes Tegan in time and plants a red crystal in her tiara while breaking the fourth wall. As she laughs, the Doctor and Tolo gets captured. So Tegan is unfrozen and goes back to the party. Tolo tells Rack that the Doctor is a spy, so him, Tegan and Mariner went back to the Shadow Ship. Sadly, Rack didn't fall for Tolo's tricks, as she can read his mind, so she was about to get him to walk the plank. However, Tolo says that he serves the Black Guardian. In the chamber, Rack summons the power of the Black Guardian. As the Doctor sees Buccaneer pull close, realises the focus must have been smuggled aboard somehow. When he described it, Tegan tells him about the crystal in the tiara. The Doctor smashes the crystal, but only multiplies the power by the number of fragments. The Doctor needs his TARDIS back to stop Rack from winning, but it's concealed in his mind, so the TARDIS returned, and the Doctor tried to reason with Rack, but she orders the Doctor to be overboard.
Yes.
As Tegan sees two people on screen floating in space, she thought one of them is the Doctor, but it turns out one of them is Rack and the other is Mansell, so they'll not be bored again, which means it won't be boring. Guess that was a bad pun there. So the Enlighteners revealed to be black and white Guardians, and the Doctor has won. The Doctor, however, refuses the Diamond Crystal, holding Enlightenment, saying that he's not ready for it. Stryker and Marina are asked to leave, but Marina refused, as he wants to stay with Tegan, but neither Tegan nor White Guardian is moved by his pleading. Marina and Stryker vanish into eternity. As a Black Guardian reminds Tolo of their bargain, he says that he can give up the diamond or sacrifice the Doctor to gain both Enlightenment and the TARDIS. Tolo is struggling with the decision.
It's in your debt for his life. Give me the Doctor, and you can have this, the TARDIS.
Consider, Tolo. Which will you give him?
But then he threw the diamond to Black Guardian, who disappeared into flames, which is pretty effective. The Doctor said that Enlightenment was not a diamond, but the choice itself. The White Guardian again warns that the Black Guardian will return, more angrier than ever, as he has been defeated twice. Obviously he doesn't take kindly well for his defeats. Plus it is a really cool and fascinating scene. Tolo requested the Doctor to take him back home on the planet Trion, and the Doctor accepted the offer.
Why not?
However, in the next story, The King's Demons, they end up in England in 1215. I really enjoyed Enlightenment. I think it's a brilliant story. What did you think of Enlightenment? And that's the Black Guardian trilogy wrapped up also. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on the comments down below, Enlightenment and the Black Guardian trilogy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.